There's a particular moment when something hard happens and your first instinct isn't to reach for your phone or think about who you might call. It's the opposite. Your attention turns inward. You start figuring out what needs to be done. There's a familiar sense of, I can handle this. It's not really about being alone or even about doing everything on your own. It's just how you've learned to steady yourself. And you probably don't experience that as isolation. You experience it as being capable, self-sufficient, independent. If that feels familiar, stay with me for a few minutes. A lot of us move through the world without expecting much help. Not because we don't value connection, but because needing too much once came with uncertainty. So we tend to handle things internally. We steady ourselves. We keep disappointment contained and keep moving. At some point, independence stops feeling like freedom, and it starts to feel like something we're quietly responsible for. You may have noticed that you don't just handle things on your own. You manage how your feelings show up too. You tend to share once they're settled, once they make sense to you. Not because you're disconnected, but because composure has felt safer than being seen. For many people, independence didn't begin as a preference. It began as protection. Maybe you grew up in an environment where asking for help came with strings attached, or where emotions created tension you didn't know how to manage, or where it was simply easier to handle things yourself than to explain what you needed. So you adapted. You became low maintenance. You learn how to process things internally. You learn how to keep your feelings tidy, digestible. You might even pride yourself on it. You're the one who doesn't overwhelm people, the one who doesn't make things awkward, the one who stays steady. And that composure can look like maturity. It can look like emotional intelligence. It can look like strength, but it takes a toll on us because when you keep your feelings contained, you don't just protect other people from discomfort. You also limit how much of you they ever really touch. And over time, connection can start to feel thin. You want closeness, but when it shows up, you don't quite know how to receive it. You want support, but the idea of someone seeing you in the middle of something feels strangely uncomfortable. So instead, you keep handling things. You keep managing. You keep editing yourself for the room. And you tell yourself you're fine. Here's the truth that often gets missed. Emotional self-containment isn't a personality trait. It's the price many people paid for independence. At some point, you learned that if you were going to handle things on your own, you had to keep your emotions under control. Not too big, not too messy, not too much. Because needing help felt like exposure, and exposure didn't feel safe. So you didn't just become independent, you became contained. And maybe the reason receiving support feels so awkward now isn't because you don't want it. It's because receiving would mean letting someone see you without the filter, without the explanation, without the apology, without you managing their reaction. That doesn't make you closed off. It makes you practiced. You weren't wrong for becoming this way. It kept you functioning. It helped you stay regulated. And you may not need to live like this anymore. Not because you're weaker now, but because the season has changed. If this pattern starts to loosen, what often comes up isn't relief right away. It's discomfort, because letting someone in means not knowing exactly how they'll respond. It means not having control over the moment. It means risking being misunderstood or seen in a way you can't edit. There can be grief here too. Grief for how little support you learned to expect. Grief for the effort it took to stay composed. Grief for the version of you who became known for handling things on your own. And there can be fear, because if you stop containing yourself, who holds you then? There's no answer you need to land on here. Just the noticing, the recognition that independence and containment were never about being distant. They were about self-protection. You don't have to suddenly need people. You don't have to open everything up. You don't have to change how you move through the world overnight. It's enough to notice where you've been holding yourself a little too tightly. It's enough to stop judging that instinct as cold, broken, or necessary. You learned how to survive. You learned how to manage. You learned how to keep going. And maybe now you're allowed to rest a little inside that. You don't have to know how to receive yet. You're allowed to pause here. If this stayed with you, you don't need to do anything with it. Just keep what was meant for you. Before we close, if Caffeine and Clarity has felt like a steady place for you, something you keep company with during your week, there are a few simple ways to support this space. You're always welcome to subscribe or leave a comment. These small gestures help at no cost to you. And if it feels right, there's also the option to donate or visit the shop and choose something that feels like it belongs with you. Mostly, I'm just glad you're here and grateful for the way you help make room for conversations like this, especially when they're needed most. This is Unbecoming, a series about the selves we had to become to survive and the courage it takes to let them go.